Hello, YNABers. My name is Jesse Meekum, and this is podcast number 48 for You Need a Budget, where we teach you 4 rules to help you stop living paycheck to paycheck, get out of debt, and save more money. Sometimes you do all that by doing less. I have an interview today, definitely one of my most favorite interviews that I've ever done, and you can hear me kind of gushing during the interview on how awesome it is. But I interview Leo Babauta from zenhabits.net. He is one of the top 25 blogs and top 50 websites in the world, has about 250,000 readers, and it is uncopyrighted because he doesn't want to hassle with it. Zen Habits features 1 or 2 powerful articles a week on simplicity, health and fitness, motivation, inspiration, frugality, family life, happiness, goals, getting great things done, and living in the moment. And we discuss a lot of that. So, without further ado, one of my favorite interviews of all time, Leo Babauta. Here we go. All right, I'm here with Leo Babauta. Right. He is the founder of zenhabits.com. Probably, I don't know, Leo, is it the most widely read blog on minimalism that's out there? I would guess so.
It's definitely up there.
Awesome. It's going to be fun to I basically work with people that are trying to manage their money better, and money kind of pervades our life. It just creeps into every aspect of what we do and our relationships. And so I'm kind of excited to hear your take on kind of, minimalism and living simply, and then maybe have people be able to apply that to their money situation.
I'm definitely excited to talk about it too.
Awesome. Let me just ask you, just kind of dive right in here. I'm kind of going with, going through this with my own thoughts and everything, and kind of looking around in my own life. But what's the best way for people to decide what can be eliminated from their life in order to simplify?
Sure. To me, it's a matter of figuring out what's important and doing a lot of trial and error. But I think, if you figure out what's important in your life, obviously for me, it's my family, and then doing work that I love, and then taking care of my health, I think are some of my biggest ones. And so I want to have things in my life that support those activities. And then if there are a bunch of other things in my life that are draining away money or time or cluttering my space, then I try and eliminate those. And so the way to find that, first of all, you kind of figure out what those priorities are, and then you start to eliminate everything else. And one of the biggest things that people have is they're afraid that they're going to be eliminating something important. And I found that, most of the time that is unwarranted. Like, we think we're going to be, eliminating something that we need, and it turns out that we're perfectly fine without it. So there's almost never been a time when I regretted eliminating something.
Okay. What's an example of something you eliminated that surprised you, where you thought you would miss it, and then it turns out that you didn't miss it at all?
Yeah, there's so many things. I mean, it depends on what area you're talking about, but when I came to finances, I started eliminating things like cable TV, which I always thought, that's something that I just basically took for granted. Like, cutting out cable TV, not only did I not miss it, it freed up so much mental space in my life, and I was able to have time to, write and create and spend time with my kids and go outside and do things. And that's just one small example, but there's so many different things. I got rid of all my magazine subscriptions. What else? I stopped going to places where all you can do is spend money. Mm-hmm. Things in my life, I got rid of most of the things in my closet, and so I freed up all that clutter, but I also learned that I didn't need all the stuff that I had, and so I could stop buying more. If you don't need all the things that you have already, then why do you need to keep buying more things? And so that was kind of a learning process for me, is learning I didn't need as much as I thought I did, and I had it for reasons of feeling secure, or a lot of times it's emotional or sentimental reasons. And so once you start to figure out that those aren't real needs, that you don't really need things for security, you don't need to buy things to be happy, you kind of learn about that kind of stuff, and then you can kind of just free yourself of all of that spending and also like just mental and physical space.
Hmm. That's great. Well, the first rule I teach people in budgeting, I tell them give every dollar a job. Make sure every dollar is going toward a purpose. And part of that exercise is for people to determine what they really truly value. And it's been amazing to see as people start assigning these finite resources, these dollars, to various purposes, that they discover that a lot of the stuff that their dollars were doing beforehand they don't care for at all, and they just kind of naturally put a stop to it. And it's not like they're cutting back; they're just stopping doing that thing that they don't cherish, for lack of a better word. Okay, Leo. Well, let me ask you. You've said on your site zenhabits.com, you've mentioned savoring the stillness, and I want to kind of have you speak to the workaholics and the people that are maybe afraid of that phrase, thinking it's laziness. If you could maybe just explain the difference between savoring the stillness and laziness.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to make a small correction. It's zenhabits.net.
Oh, I'm sorry, zenhabits.net.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't own the .com. I kind of wish I did, but
Yeah, I'll bet you do. Yeah, that's
anyway. So savoring the stillness, that's something that was really hard for me to learn. So I've always been someone who's like, active, just always pushing things, busy, always trying to make the most efficient use of my time. And so I would do things like waiting in line at the doctor's office. I would be doing work,
hmm
or making sure I had a folder of things to read or do. This is before they had smartphones, but
yeah, yeah.
in meetings, if there was ever a lull in a meeting, I would like make, even just a few seconds, I would make the most efficient use of that time. And I think where I've gone in the opposite direction is that I now don't believe that we need to cram every second full of busyness, and that we can, find time for stillness, for quiet, for solitude. And I think those things are actually necessary if you're going to be anyone who's creating anything, or doing, what you might consider important work. If you ever want to have time for sanity and reflecting on your life and doing things consciously, um, I think we need that time for disconnection and stillness and quiet. And really, what it is, it's just creating a space so that we can kind of listen to ourselves, because we don't realize is that we have this voice in our head that's telling us things.
hmm
Sounds weird, but it's like these these thoughts that are going on in the back of our heads that are saying, "No, you're not good enough," or "No, you can't do this," or or just don't, go ahead and procrastinate. It's okay, or it's okay to go ahead and buy this thing on impulse. And we don't hear these thoughts because they're just happening in the back of our head without us knowing it. But if
hmm
you have some time for stillness, you can start to hear these things and then kind of start to realize that they aren't you and they don't control you. And so I found that for changing any kind of habit, you really need to be able to hear those voices and not necessarily act on them. And so I've changed financial habits, health habits, productivity habits, all because I'm now able to kind of listen to this stuff, using some time for stillness and quiet, meditation, reflection, writing, reading, journaling, that kind of stuff.
hmm You mentioned productivity, which I know you're obviously, just kind of seeing how what you've done with the Zen Habits website and all the work you've done there and the writing that you've done there. You're obviously a productive person, and but you also, boast the ability to be able to take time out, so to speak. And you mentioned on your site, there was a phrase that jumped at me where you basically say, stop judging, stop expecting. There's no, think of nothing as good or bad. And I wanted to have you maybe speak to the people that are hard driving toward goals. Like
Sure.
without a fixed mark or a standard, how do people know that they're progressing in that way?
Yeah, there's a lot in that question. So,
I'm sorry, I should probably have cut it
no,
up a little
yeah,
bit, but
unpack it a little bit. First of all, you mentioned me being productive and producing a lot on Zen Habits. I've written a lot of ebooks. I do courses. I do a lot of posts. Actually, I do several blogs. And so I definitely produce a lot.
Hmm.
And you could say I accomplish a lot. But the secret to that is that I don't necessarily do a lot of busy work. And so I've really simplified my workday so that I know what the most important things are that I need to do each day. And I get those done first before I like move on to the busy work of email and Twitter and all those other things. And because I do those first, I can stop working early and have time for my family or exercise or meditation or any of that stuff, um, because I really have simplified my work down to the most important things. And so it seems like I'm producing a lot, but I don't necessarily work a lot.
Hmm.
Uh, and so that's one thing. Uh, Another thing that I've been experimenting with, and I don't have all the answers, but it's definitely different for me, which is letting go of goals. And so I've always been a goal-driven person and felt that I needed goals in order to accomplish things.
Hmm.
But now I've learned that goals aren't necessarily necessary. We think that the goals are necessary to get us somewhere, but actually, what drives us is being motivated, to do stuff. Being passionate about doing what we're doing, and really, wanting to create something that's going to help the world and help other people. And so that drives me every day when I wake up. Not like the idea of getting to a certain place, but the idea of doing something that I love and putting it out there for the world. And I do that every day, and I can do that without having a certain goal in mind where I want to be in a month or 2 months or a year or 5 years. Those are kind of these end destinations that we have in mind, but they're fixed, they're arbitrary. We kind of just create them like, you know, without any real knowledge of what the future is going to be like. We don't know what's going to happen in a month and how that might change the way that we work or the way that we should, the path that we take.
Hmm. It's
And
fascinating. It's so kind of if I could maybe restate it, probably hopefully I don't butcher it, but you set a 1 year goal, and a lot of your mental focus is toward this goal. And there's a lot of obviously, I mean, I'm sure you're aware of the literature, a lot of the Think and Grow Rich, the think,
sure.
say this goal 10 times a day or whatever it is to unlock the power of your mind and all these
Yep.
things. And but what you're maybe kind of saying it, or what I was hearing at least for myself was I set this goal of a year away, and then I obsess and obsess and obsess for 3 months, and then at the 3.5 month mark, something dramatic or not so dramatic changes, and that goal is invalid
Yeah,
for whatever reason. So I've essentially burned a lot of mental energy on something that I arbitrarily set for myself, and that's fascinating.
Well,
I
what happens a lot of times is not necessarily that it's invalid. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes, though, it's not necessarily the best path to take anymore because the landscape has changed in 3 months.
hmm.
And so, what you really want to be able to do is be flexible and change according to the landscape. Like, you know, your world might be completely different in 3 months, and yet you're still operating on a fixed course towards that 1 year goal that you set 3 months ago when everything was different.
Yeah.
And you didn't have the information that you have now. Maybe some opportunities have opened up that, you weren't aware that, you couldn't have anticipated when you set your goals. And so, are you going to take that new opportunity or are you going to stick to the path that you set 3 months ago?
Yeah.
And what happens is a lot of people stick to the path that they set because they think they need to hit those goals. And those goals were, again, arbitrary and not necessarily the best place to be. And so if you let go of the idea of trying to get to a fixed destination, which is a goal, and just work based on certain principles and values that you have, principles like, doing work that you love and helping other people. If you work on that, then what happens is you might end up in a completely different place than you might have imagined when you first started out, but it still can be a great place.
Absolutely.
Back to what you said about letting go of expectations. Um, if you expect to be a certain place and then you don't hit that goal, you don't end up in that place, then you're going to be really disappointed because of the expectations that you set. But if you work again based on, what you're doing now is the best thing that you can be doing now, based on these principles of doing what you want to do, what you're passionate about. If you work on that instead and not know where you're going to end up, and not have any expectations of what it's going to be like when you get there, then you're never going to be disappointed. You're always going to be successful. And that's what I found is I don't necessarily have the same ideas of success that I used to have,
Hmm.
but I'm super happy with where I've ended up.
Yeah, and you'd mentioned earlier when you were talking about your work day, you said that you produce and accomplished a lot, and that you know what's important for the day, and so we could maybe say for those people that are just dying for us to give them license to set some goals, it sounds like at the beginning of each day you have a very good idea of what you'd like to accomplish. Um,
Yeah, I mean, you might say that that's a daily goal instead of a yearly goal.
mhm,
And that's fine. You can define your terms however you want to. I just kind of look at it as what am I excited about doing today? What is
mhm.
the most important thing that I could do today that could help the people that I'm serving? And then I say this is what I'm excited about. Let's work on it and see what happens.
Yeah,
I might not end up accomplishing that particular thing, but that's what I start out doing. I usually do end up accomplishing it, and so a lot of times my day will change during the course of the day. But I do start out by asking myself that question: What am I excited about today? What can I do that will really benefit people?
yeah, I like that. I think that I don't know, that could help. That helps me. That it certainly helps a lot of the listeners out there. That being able to work on things you love is just really nothing. Nothing beats that.
And you can
Um,
ask yourself that not just at the beginning of the day, but throughout the day. Like, is what I'm doing now the most important thing I could be doing, or the thing I'm most excited about? And if it's like, just kind of checking the news and reading, Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that, then maybe the answer to that is no.
yeah,
But it could be. I mean, maybe posting something on Facebook is really important, so maybe that will pass the test. But you can ask yourself continually throughout the day and throughout your life, is this, ask those questions.
yeah, I love that. That's great. All right, there are, I mean, there are certain situations I'm thinking of for people that, I mean, I have 5 kids, so we stay extremely busy.
Sure.
Um, but
That's a,
oh yeah, it's a full house and it's insane all the time, but I love it. So
yeah,
um, but I was thinking about maybe single parents or people that by definition have a lot on their plate.
yeah.
If you have any good methods of simplifying for someone that really just by the nature of what's happened or whatever they have a lot to deal with.
Yeah. Well, I would say that all these things that are on our plate, we kind of grow to believe that they're necessary. And so
Mm.
we have to have them on our plate, and we just need to figure out the best way to arrange them on that plate. But the truth is that they're not, um, and that you can let go of most of the things that are on your plate. I mean, of course, I can't speak for everybody, but I know for myself, like that I had when I first started out, I was overwhelmed and I had too much to do, and I never had time for the things that were really important to me, like my kids. And I do have kids. I have 6 kids
Awesome.
as well. Yeah. Well, one of them's in college now, so only 5 in the house. But um, yeah, I mean, they were and are the most important thing to me, but they also, I had the least amount of time for them because I had so much on my plate. And so I thought I had to do all these things. One thing was like I was a soccer coach for them. And I thought that was really great, but also it was taking away so much of my time that I could be spending, on them.
Hmm.
Uh, and so those kinds of things, all these commitments that we make, we have to kind of make a list of them and say, can I get out of this? Or is this really supporting what's most important to me? And if not, then can I get out of it? And so the answer usually is no, I don't need to be doing this. And yes, I can get out of it. I just need to maybe make a phone call or send an email and say, I just can't do this anymore. I don't have the time.
Hmm.
What I have found is that you can free up a ton of time, sometimes right away, but sometimes it takes a month or two before you can get there. But you can free up a ton of time and then spend that time doing the things that are most important to you, and not necessarily fill up that plate again. Maybe leave a little bit of space on that plate so that you have a little bit of breathing room and sanity.
Yeah, and that time for stillness, like you had mentioned earlier, time to just kind of sit and listen.
But I think also, even given that fewer commitments, we also tend to try and fill up our time with all this busy work. if we stopped doing that and just focused on the most important things, um, just stop filling up every single moment, then we would have, a little bit of simplicity in our lives. Again, that space for stillness. And so just stop filling it up, and stop feeling compelled to fill it up. We do that too with our kids. Like we think that their time needs to be, booked with all these classes and, sports teams and, all these different activities, and we don't give them any space.
Mm.
Just kind of go outside and play and, have some free space to imagine. And the same is true of ourselves. We don't give ourselves space to imagine and be creative, because we're just filling it up, and we have this compulsion to do it. But I don't think it's healthy, and I think we need to take a step back and be more conscious about how we spend our time.
I love that. I hear all sorts of parallels. I mean, I always am thinking about. I'll tie everything back to money. It's like just I live and breathe, kind of helping people get to grips with their money and
Money is
um,
a tangible way to, how we spend our lives.
yeah, it's like I mean, it's a currency, like a real currency,
Right.
but it's also a representation of how you spend your life, and
Yeah.
it's fascinating. And I just last night I was talking with my wife. I got back from FinCon, this financial blogger conference, and there's
Cool.
some of these bloggers there that they've retired, like they're done, and they're 35 or something, and all they've really done is just decided these are the most important things to me, and then it's like this revelation, like, wow, my life doesn't cost that much to live.
Right. Yeah.
And I was telling my wife, I said, we have a nice home, and we were aggressive and paid off the mortgage on it, and we're doing well financially in that way. But I thought, are we just going to fill up the house, or are we going to do things with purpose? And
And it's the same thing when I said we think that all these things on our plate are necessary. We think all the things in our house are necessary. All the things that we buy are necessary. And if we like released that idea and just said, what's really necessary? What are the most basic things? And let's see if I can release all these other things. You could free up a lot of money. Sell
yeah,
a bunch of stuff on eBay and stop buying so much crap. You'd free up not only money, you'd savings, you'd pay off your debt, then you can work less. Yeah, it's amazing what you can do once you start to like think not all of this stuff is necessary.
do you? I wonder if thinking about kind of noise in your. You were talking about this voice in your head, and I'm thinking about credit card debt, and it's almost like they're cousins. It's
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
the credit card debt is like a manifestation of noise and of lack of focus or lack of clarity, I guess, in what you find important.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think this voice in our head that kind of just makes us do things out of impulse and without, us really realizing that it's happening. The same thing with credit cards. We tend to buy out of impulse because we can and it's easy and it's fast and we think we need it and or we fantasize that we need it, and so we get it right away without really kind of stopping and looking at what that impulse is and what is this thing that's telling us that we need to buy these things. And so it's so easy to buy stuff online now with a credit card, and we tend to rack up tons of credit card debt because we don't like pause and listen to these urges.
Yeah.
So, you probably heard the old trick that I used to use when I was trying to control these urges was I would write down anything that I would want to buy on a 30-day list, and I would,
Mm.
can't I can't buy this thing for 30 days unless it's an absolute necessity like toilet paper and food.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if it was, an iPod, I couldn't buy it for 30 days. And what that did was just a way of making me pause and really kind of consider whether I needed this and what's the urge that's making me want this so bad. And I think that's the same thing when I was talking about, stillness and these voices in our head when we want to change our habits or when we're trying to procrastinate. This that stuff controls us if we don't kind of just pause and take a look at it.
I love it. I love this. So the new iPhone comes out on Wednesday.
Yeah,
That's the rumor, right?
yeah.
So now I have to wait for 30 days to see if I really want that new iPhone.
Set a rule. You can't anything new from Apple that comes out. You
Yeah.
at least a month, maybe two.
Maybe two because they're so sneaky.
They're
They
so
are.
good.
Yeah, they're so good at it. That's all.
Uh,
Oh, go ahead.
Apple and a lot of these other companies, but Apple's one of the best at just kind of creating this fantasy that we want to buy into. We want this fantasy. They have this, their product is going to make our lives so much better, and it's really the same thing with any other thing that we tend to buy. It's this fantasy that our lives are going to be so much better when we get this thing.
Hmm.
And of course, our lives aren't really not going to be that much different, except that we'll be more in debt probably,
Yeah.
or have less in our savings.
Now, on the, do you think as a whole, do you think we're all addicted to smartphones now?
I do. I think we're addicted to technology in general, being connected, and smartphones are the extension of that. When it used to be just computers and laptops, and now smartphones are everywhere with wherever we go. And so we're always connected, always checking what other people are doing, always worried that we're not doing the best thing possible, or we're missing out on something cool that everyone else is doing,
Hmm.
or we're missing out on the latest news or a really important email. And so this fear of missing out is keeping us checking our smartphones. And of course, if we're at home or at the office, we're always on the computer checking these things. So yeah, that fear is driving that addiction.
I always try this. And then I relapse like a drunk, where I tell my wife I'm gonna just leave my office or my phone down in my. I work from home, so I just leave it down in my
Yeah,
office.
yeah,
And I do that, and then it's like I have all of this attention that I didn't have before.
yeah,
And I've got kids around the dinner table, and they're all like the oldest is 8, right? So it's just like chatterbox city. Like, I mean, it's incessant. And I sometimes I'm like I'm missing this. I'm missing out on the moment because I'm always it's like you're always anticipating the next thing, like the next email, the
yep,
next one. And I run a business that's busy,
sure.
whatever that means. So there's always something for me to anticipate. And then in that anticipation, I totally miss out on the moment that I could, you know, enjoy.
And yeah, I mean that's exactly what we do for everything else, and not just technology. It's like we're always this is going back to the goals. We're always looking towards the future for, this anticipation, this hope, these big dreams, these fantasies. And because we're living in this fantasy world of what's going to happen in the future, or what's going to happen next, or what might happen, or what we're afraid might happen, yeah, we're absolutely missing out on the you know, incredible joy of what is here right now available to us that life is offering to us
Yeah.
right in front of our face. But no, this is not good enough. We need to fantasize about the future or have this, dream of what might be, what our lives are going to be like, or this fear of, this thing that might happen. And so all of this future thinking is just making us miss out on the most amazing thing in the world, which is right here, right now. Yeah, like you said, your kids are right in front of you, your spouse, your friends, your coworkers, your parents, your sisters, you know, all of these amazing people. Go outside and there's nature right there. The fantasy is, doesn't compare to,
Hmm.
you know, gifts that are around us, but we reject those for this dream world that we're in.
Man, this is deep stuff for me. I gotta be
It's
honest.
simple stuff actually, but
It
yeah,
it it
we just
rings simple, like it really does. Like I'm like, yeah, like it's almost like you just need someone to slap you like maybe twice a day, you know?
wait someone to wake us up.
Yeah, yeah, and that is really something. Is there do you have one, I mean, you've written, zenhabits.net, it's like these zen habits, these moments of or these habits that kind of get you in the now, get you, having clarity. Are there any habits that you promote that you find particularly difficult, or you found as you've coached people or taught people that are traditionally more difficult for people to implement?
Well, exercise is always difficult. People always want to and then never can stick to it.
Hmm.
And I found it really difficult for people. But another one that I found incredibly difficult, and also incredibly useful, even better than exercise, is meditation.
Hmm.
And it sounds like it's such a good thing to a lot of people, but also like this kind of thing that I don't really need to be doing because there's important things. But I found it to be one of the most amazing things. Um, I mean, it has so many benefits. The point of meditation is just to meditate, but there are so many benefits that go with it. And it's not just like relaxation and de-stressing. Really, what it is it's learning about yourself and learning about, living in the moment what we were just talking about, and learning that our minds are constantly spinning these fantasies and dreams and living in this world that's not really happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
So when you meditate, you notice that. Like you say, okay, let's just focus on my breath. I'm just going to sit here and focus on my breath and do nothing else. But then as you do that, then you notice, no, all of a sudden your mind is like jumping somewhere else.
Yeah, yeah.
And you don't know that unless you start to like sit there and watch it. So that's what meditation is. It's just kind of being able to notice, paying attention. And it's practicing paying attention. But if you don't do that, then what happens is that mind is doing that all the time, but we allow it to do it without being conscious of it, and so it controls us. And so we don't live in the moment. We don't pay attention to our kids in front of us, and we're always on our smartphones because of the lack of consciousness and the lack of being able to pay attention to what's really happening right now. And so meditation is practice for life. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it is life. You're sitting there, you are living life,
Yeah.
but it's a set of useful skills that you can take away and bring to your work, bring to your family life and your love life, everything, your health life. It helps you form habits like exercise that are so hard to form. And so I found it to be the foundational habit that I've been trying to form and have gone on and off for years. I'm doing it now, but there's been times when I don't meditate for months. But every time I return to it, it's like it pays off in so many ways. I mean, just 10 minutes spent meditating can change your life, and that's 10 minutes that you can find time for.
Yeah. I actually, this is great because I think it was maybe a year ago, I was curious about meditation. I thought, okay, I pray, so prayer is, but I recognize that prayer is very different from meditation. And I read a book, I think it was called 8 Minute Meditation or something like that. It reviewed well on Amazon, so I picked it up.
It's 2 minutes better than my 10-minute
So
meditation.
yeah, it's already an improvement. See, we're optimizing our meditation, and I know.
I come out with a 7 minute.
But it was extremely difficult to not think. Like
Yeah,
I could not believe how hard. I mean, I read the book. I'm a fairly sharp guy, and it's saying, yeah, focus on your breath and don't let yourself think about stuff.
well, I
And
would I would say it differently, but go ahead.
but I was just amazed at how hard it was for me to calm my mind down.
Yeah.
So
Another thing is that's going on all day long. Like that, what's going on with your mind when you sit down and meditate, and you like I can't focus on this one thing, which is my breath that's happening right now,
hmm
and that's going on all day long. We have our kids in front of us, but we're thinking about work,
hmm
and we can't stop our minds. And the truth is, you can't stop your mind. You can't like banish all thoughts. And so that's what I would say differently is I wouldn't say like don't think because that's impossible. Our
hmm
our minds will always start to think, and that's just who we are. But what you can do is learn to be better at bringing your attention to your breath and to the current moment. And so you might focus on your breath for a second, and then all of a sudden you're thinking about work,
hmm
and you can't stop that, but you can notice it. And then you say, okay, I see that's happening. It's not bad. It's not good. It's just happening. And so you watch it, and then you can say, now let's go back to the breath.
hmm
It's okay that it's there, but I'm not going to invite it to tea. I'm not going
hmm
to engage it. I see it, but I'm not going to engage it. And you go back to the breath, and you're not going to banish your thoughts. I don't know anyone who's ever done it. There are people who've done it for moments at a time and maybe minutes at a time, but it's not ever going to like completely go away. Um, but what will do is be better at noticing it and watching it, and then not letting it control you.
That's awesome. It's awareness, being aware of your mind and
Yeah,
and being
and being able,
conscious.
Right. And being able to pay attention to that and then go back and bring your attention to your breath. And that back and forth process, which, like I said, is really difficult actually. Doing just 8 minutes of it, it seems really hard because you're like, oh my God, I can't do this.
Yeah.
You have to kind of be gentle with yourself and not and be forgiving. So don't be so hard that you're thinking, because we all do. Even the most Zen, master in the world will think when he meditates or she meditates. So we have to just say, that's okay that I'm doing it. That's just who I am. But now I can kind of see that it's happening and go back. So
I need to revisit it.
yeah, I think everyone should. And we kind of think it's this superfluous thing that sounds nice, but I don't really need to do it. I've got more important things to do. But really, there isn't anything more important than what's happening right now. And that's what meditation is really learning to notice that what's going on right now.
I love it, man. Well, this has been great for me. I'm kind of selfish in this way because I get so much out of the interview, and then I'm like, oh, I guess the podcast listeners, they can listen too. But I love it. Like I write down, I've taken notes. I'm like, okay, I need to do this and this. So it's great. I just love it. I want to write some kind of a melding of, your money and your mind. There's something there that needs to come out,
absolutely. Yeah, your money is, like you said, a representation of your mind. So, and your life and how you spend your time and your priorities, what you love, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's very cool. Well, we could go on forever, but I'll let you go. I've kept you long enough, but I appreciate it, Leo. This is fantastic stuff. So I'll get this all tidied up and we'll put it out there and
thanks for letting me talk about this stuff.
Absolutely. Let me ask you one thing really quick. I mean, you said you'd
Sure.
written some books and things. Are there books that I could find on this, like on zenhabits.net or
Sure.
on Amazon or things like that?
In the sidebar, there's a little link that says books. Just click on that. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks so much, Leo. You have a great rest of the week, and hopefully we
Jesse,
can.
thank you.
Yeah, we can do this again.
It sounds like you're doing good work, and I want to encourage you to keep up the good work and keep helping people.
Absolutely. It's my calling. I found out after about 8 years. This is my calling, so I love it.
And of course, take care of those kids, and don't forget to spend time with them. I know you already know that, but
Well, no, it's good to have that reminder. I appreciate it, and well, hopefully we can talk again and do another interview as I get better at meditation, and we can have.
You'll have questions.
Yeah. So. Okay, well, thanks so much, Leo. You have a great week, and just thanks for taking the time. This was awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Jesse.
All right, we'll talk to you later.
All right, take care.
Bye. And there you have it, my interview with Leo Babauta from zenhabits.net. Check it out. There is plenty of food for thought in this podcast, and there is a whole cornucopia of food for thought if you check out his website and subscribe as a reader. Until next time, follow YNAB's 4 rules and you will win financially. You have not budgeted like this.